Well, thank you so much for that beautiful, majestic selection to enter us into this space. And thank you for joining us wherever you are, whenever you tune in. This holy instant is salvation come. As we join in consciousness, we become witnesses to the kingdom of God here on earth. We walk in gratitude. Namaste. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Karen. Hi, Karen. Welcome everyone to tune in at whatever time. It is today also a very lightful day in my mind, and for this soft music reminding me of true communication with Christ mind is just really in that sense getting me out of any meaning of perception. And so that video that we are watching in this joining with the master teacher's teaching will be of a quite extensive series, which is called the Cellular Mind Training Series. And the video has the title, Jesus is Back with Us Right Here and Now, in which we continue our creative self-identity. So it has quite a long title and subtitle. And he will, in this first part that we are watching, use a description or an article that we find in this Out of Time journal, which is also available to those who are interested in for a free download as a PDF on acimi.com. And he will use that part where it is about to the students of A Course in Miracles everywhere in the world. And he's talking about the purpose of the workbook, but of course, will go into expressions like, remember, you have invented the world you see. Yes, also the connection with the introduction that we are doing right now. What is the word of the lessons 241 to 250? Including the body you seemingly inhabit. Your distorted perception of yourself as a self-identity living and dying in a body is for a moment based upon your memories of the past, and you may associate your miraculous physical and mental changes with those old ideas. He will use in that video demonstration also an example which is pretty much now 20 years ago, and went all over the world, and an event, I would say, that wasn't just in the cinemas on the screen a success or something that shocked the human mind. It was at that time, you probably remember it too, the movie The Passion of the Christ from Mel Gibson. And so he expresses in that too, I'm picking on you, Mel Gibson. And as we might know, or you can read it, Mel Gibson put his personal money into that production because nobody wanted to have such a movie. And that eventually he decided that it would be presented and published only in Aramaic without subtitles. So there was also this need to, with this trained mind, to tune into and look at what comes up in one's own consciousness and mind that wants to be given to the Holy Spirit, corrected and healed and saved. And so how that is all woven into that half hour that we are watching, will just leave with his own words and his demonstration, and we'll just open up here the video and say again, thank you for giving yourself the moment, the peace and serenity to join with a demonstration of your own awakening. Here we go.
I hear it echoing across the associations of my mind. I can hear an echoing. A voice is speaking to me saying, I'm the light of the world. 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 We're going to set up a final parameter of the ideas of teaching this course in the miracle of the conversion of your mind, where you'll begin by saying, I'm the light of the world. Not other associations of time, but recognition of the frequencies of light by which I'm attempting to express to you my certainty of the power of your own mind to decide the outcome that you want in the miracle of this Course in Miracles in Mind training. Listen, 4 minutes to begin the episode that you've decided now to become a part of the entirety of this idea, that you're constantly changing your mind objectively about what you wanted to see in our association with each other. Will you listen to me? And then we'll come and set up this parameter of what we want to say. Listen. To students of A Course in Miracles everywhere in the world, the purpose of this workbook has been to train your mind in a systematic way to a different perception of everyone and everything in the world, because the very nature of true perception is that it is unlimited. It's the opposite of the way you see now. Look, students and teachers of A Course in Miracles are experiencing the transformational symptoms, I love the word, the Course in Miracles promises as the great awakening manifests itself in the undoing of your perceptual consciousness self-identity. You're suffering from a symptom of a light alternative within your own mind. In fact, it is very unlikely that simply your application of the daily workbook lessons has not included some light episodes in the conversion of the objectivity of your mind. Stand by now for some indescribable joy and a myriad of forms of physical and mental phenomena. A passionate intensity of awakening, often confused with eroticism, how about that? And physical ailments, or even alien abductions, or near-death experiences, or lucid dreams about yourself. The physical transformation is your resurrection and the miraculous healing of your mind-body than which you associate within your own mind. You listen, remember, you have invented the world that you see, including the body that you seemingly inhabit. Look with me. It is very difficult to enlighten it, since the body is literally a thick thought form image in which you enshroud yourself in your own imagination. It's a holographic hallucination covering truth and emanating from your own mind. Reasonably, the change of your mind must include changes in your body association, since you believe that you are a body. Here we go now. The workbook, introduction, says that even though you may not believe or accept or even welcome the ideas in the lessons, none of that even matters or decreases their efficacy. So you are really asking for the miracle as you apply the lessons, aren't you? Your body is included in your distorted perception as a dense covering over miracle impulses. And since miracles are thoughts which rearrange perception, you will experience miracle impulses which you will at first interpret perhaps as physical impulses. Why? Because they are energetic and they include the action in forms. Look, they may not always be especially convenient, as they are not under your direction, but the inevitability of the conversion itself. Here, your distorted perception of yourself as a self-identity, living and dying in a body, is, for a moment, based upon your memories of the past. And you may associate your miraculous physical and mental changes with some of your old ideas of yourself. Are you with me with this? Did you see what just occurred within the perspective of the possibility of the idea that you're going to admit to the alteration of your consciousness? Remember in the reviews that we performed behind? Thank you. I'm going to come into a physical reappearance with you. Here, look at, there. Now, that observation of me, okay, is a hopeful indication that in the lessons we intend to do in this Course in Miracles, we're going to be setting up parameters of continuing alteration of the physical formulation of your body form, in hopes that in that physical transformation of your body, you would recognize the direction of Lesson 61. Remember, what did it say?
I'm the light of the world.
There we are. There we are in the idea of the new identity you have given yourself in correspondence with your individual mind training auspices, that while you had degrees of the operation of your idea in that procedure, you have progressed within your own idea of physical formulation of body identity, okay, allowing for the idea, okay, of instruction. Okay, the manner in which we have set up this parameter of time is not in a place that you have heretofore been accustomed to in the idea of your own individual objective occurrence within space-time. Very simply because I'm going to use the word invention here. Will you say to me invention? Yeah, the idea that contained within your physical observation of yourself is an idea of an association of physical time in which you appear to be in an idea of objective observation of yourself in a correspondent that necessitates an admission that you have already made to me, that location in space-time, objectively, we're using the word hologram here, appear to be undergoing constant changes in the physicalness of my representation to you, a bright re-identity of yourself in the action of the mind training of Lesson 61 that are going to progress through the mind training in individual ideas of yourself, look with me, in what you want to see about yourself. Yet it cannot not be in some form of correspondence. Let's use the idea of this mind training. Let's use momentarily the idea that you are going to continue to undergo experiences of the idea of self-identity that are contained within other possibilities of light ideas of yourself that are actually going on when simultaneous with this idea. This is an incredible idea. The formulation of yourself. Remember all about the mysteries of outer space. You do this with me. The request that I'm actually making of you within the idea of your identity of yourself are actually nothing but ideas about your present condition in the operation of how you feel about, excuse me, did I get quantum teleportation momentarily involved with you? Say to me, well, I don't think I'm in quantum teleportation. Say that.
I don't think I'm in quantum
What do you think is happening right now? What did you think in the mind training? Look with me. If I have a fundamental admission of the alteration of the physicality in which we represent reflections of light to each other, okay, if we're not going to be dealing with the idea, we're back to the word invention. Look, there, I saw a teleportation of the occurrence of a physicalness. Watch how rapidly I can perform this act of mind training. Oh, there. Did you see that? Say to me, too late.
Too late.
It's too late. I love to teach. Are you hearing me in the lessons of the 60s and the 70s? The observation that I make of you in regard to the physicalness, of your body formulation, and I'm obviously being physical, in the reflection of the correspondence of light by which you are directing your characterization. Say to me, character.
Character.
Yeah. Whoever you are a character of recognition, a body form in which you instigate locations of reflections of light of what you want to see. Remember in the new show you're about to see the reappearance of physical Jesus? Shall I teach? Instruct just in a little story about how you are in regard to your determination to suffer the conflict of pain and death within the idea of yourself, okay? And call it what we use in the idea of Christianity, crucifixion. Here it is. In the idea of a light formulation of the reflection of my own mind, I am fearful within the aspect, the degrees of intervals of light, and the inevitability that the reflection of the formulation of the physical mind of my present idea of myself is what my certainty of my physical death, my pain, my loneliness, my Aramaic idea of the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. I need a characterization to use. I need a name. Give me Mel. There's Mel. Say to me, Mel Gibson. As long as I'm going to present this idea that I'm going to present you with crucifixion, I need an identity. Why should I not use Mel Gibson? Because very few have ever heard of Mel Gibson. Okay? Very few have heard of my association with myself. Shall we practice why? Very few have heard of your own observation of yourself, except as an inevitable instructor of what you believe in regard to the correspondence in which you find yourself in the conflict, say to me space-time, in the conflict of the crucifixion of energy identity, in the manifestation of dark light that justifies within you the idea that you have to continue within your own formulation. And Mel, I don't want you to think I'm picking on you. Shall I tell you why? I am picking on you. I've already seen the beautiful evidence that you have as this physical body with the name Mel Gibson in the idea that you are teaching lessons of the manifestation of Jesus Christ. That is, the physical idea of the reappearance of the possibility that does not exclude the pain and the conflict and the loneliness of what's going on in this idea of yourself. But you listen to me, it does include this. In the training of my mind, and now you may call yourself anything you wish within the physicality of yourself. Here I am as a physical body in the manifestation of my individual light demonstration of my capacity to emulate in reflection of myself any single perfect body identity. Now I'm training my mind systematically to the 60s and the 70s in this mind training of the Course in Miracles, in which I attempt, and I'm going to demonstrate to you, the idea that whatever you're calling yourself, in your idea of yourself, look at me, there's more to you than that. And I'm going to perform it for you physically if you let me, because you are already involved with the physicalness of the idea that the consciousness self by which you are identified as a Homo sapien, that you're identified within this formulation of body formulation. Terms what you would use as an example, distances of time between past and future identities of yourself. Now, the effort that I'm implying and attempting to organize within your own idea of yourself include getting old, getting sick, and dying within our reflection of ourself. Yet each time you apparently observe yourself, as I just saw you did, you separated yourself off in the physicalness of your recognition of me as participating within a relationship of space-time that allows our bodies to believe objectively, look at this, that we are separate in our ideas of ourselves, and we're not. Here, I'm going to read to you 3 minutes about space-time because I feel like it. You are very capable, now I'm talking to all consciousness of human beings, you are very capable of listening to the idea of the possibility of teleportation of your mind in my certainty that I'm performing it with you right now. Not only am I performing it with you in lessons 66 and 67, in fact lessons 71 and 72, in fact the whole idea that you have decided to train your mind systematically, that each moment, look at me, there's something else you can see. Huh? Did it work? Say to me, idea.
Idea.
Oh, yeah. All I'm really offering you, Mel Gibson, in the crucifixion of your body form, is another idea. Query, what's wrong with that? Say to me, it'll never work. That's nonsense. It's already working in the physicalness of your light identity being demonstrated by this 80-year-old body formulation. You don't like that. Here. There. How's that? Is that all right?
Yes.
Now, what happened when I came into this association, Mel, or whoever you are, I'm going to have to appear as a master, what you call a teacher, as evidence of setting up another parameter of time in which, say to me, resurrection. What's wrong with a great story about the resurrection? Whoever you are, whoever you're speaking to yourself, finally, the evidence that the causation of it is in your own mind rather than out in the objective association of the world that you're seeing are the reason why we're doing this within the idea. Thank you. Huh? Are we having a lot of fun with this Course in Miracles? Once you get the hang of the mind training, you begin to simply allow it to occur rather than trying to define it as a form of location of yourself in time, which appears to you to be objective in your idea of yourself. Look, just a little bit about time. Okay, just enough so you can get a feeling for what's occurring within your own mind. Listen. A great source of confusion in discussions of time's passage stems from its link with the so-called arrow of time. To deny that time flows is not to claim that the designations past and future are without physical basis. Events in the world undeniably form a sequence. For instance, an egg dropped on the floor will smash into pieces Whereas the reverse process, a broken egg spontaneously assembling itself into an intact egg, is never actually witnessed by your body form. Interesting, isn't it? This is an example of the second law of thermodynamics, which states that the entropy of a closed system, roughly defined as how disordered it is within its need to identify itself, will tend to rise with time, not measured in the speed with which one moment succeeds as another. Look with me. Therefore, it appears that the flow of time, is subject, not objective, within the illusion of yourself. What an amazing idea. Shall we do it just for a moment in the formulation of yourself? Okay, there's no question that you believe objectively that our formulation of space-time together in the causation of how I am viewing myself in the reference of what I have about myself, is objective. I love to teach. I love to teach the immediacy in the reappearance of the resurrection of any physical idea, the possibility of the reasonableness within your own mind. Shall we say why? The reason it's important is though I may see that, is objective in the idea that I have about that identity of my mind, I have become increasingly aware that your mind process in the objectivity of your body formulation in space-time, admittedly, is different than mine. Look with me. You'll notice then that I'm not taking the idea away from you that you and I, shall we practice a little bit? I love to teach, are going to scramble up a couple of eggs. Let's try it together because the old man loves to teach. You're going to listen to me? Here we are for breakfast, and we're going to crack some eggs and we're going to scramble them into an oscillation. This is called the string theory of the observation of yourself. Now what occurs with us? We both observe within our own mind the occurrence of the objective idea of what we are in our relationship with ourselves. And I want you to listen to me. Use the power of your mind. Would you just for a moment? Our observation of it is going to be when? Well, we'll go say it again. Now, so in that sense, look with me, there is nothing actually objective within the idea of a correspondent of reflection of light, but that it's entirely, shall we practice the idea? Say to me, subjective. In other words, if you and I are going to sit down together, we're going to have to agree. Come on, now I'm teaching the reappearance of Jesus Christ. Or anyone who, use me if you want to. Obviously, I'm coming from outside of this sequence of the space-time definition of yourself. And I'm offering you another solution. And I saw you see it. Now, does that mean I can't enjoy eating scrambled eggs? Try not to be ridiculous. The idea of the physicality of your body and the identity of the ages by which you identify yourself are correspondences in which you necessitate the idea that, well, actually, look with me, it remains subjective within our own mind. Practice in the course. I'm deciding the outcome that I want. And everything that's happening out there, I have decided in my own proceeding that I want to occur. Do you see that? Now, that's a memory, isn't it? Remember just a moment ago, I came into this idea, I had my physical sweater on. Now, I've taken my physical sweater off, but I have trained my mind sufficiently to remain in a condition of here and now in lesson 61, 62, and 63, where the power of my mind, let's practice a little bit, not to decide momentarily the objective idea of myself, has freed me into a reference of my recognition of you. See, are you a teacher of the Course in Miracles? Are you a teacher of the idea of the admission that the formulation of the illusionary nature of your character within this continuum of time is undergoing changes anyway? Certainly. Here's what we'll do. There's a sequence of time. These are set up in 28-minute cycles of time that can represent as long a distance of space-time as you want them. Now, I'm going to leave you now. When I come back into the physicalness of myself, you can listen, it will be an entirely different space-time in which you find yourself, very simply because your space-time observation of yourself is changing all the time anyway. All you've really done with me in the mind training, say to me, let it change. There, let it change so that the light energy can infiltrate the objective idea of my location in the crucifixion, and I can see that Jesus is standing with me. Gently now with our minds. God goes with us wherever we go, doesn't he? We're going to carry him deep within us so that that reflection from Jesus gets brighter and brighter and brighter and brighter in our minds, and I'll be with you in another moment. And I'll be with you in another moment. And I'll be with you.
Oh, thank you so much. I got here from scrambled eggs to resurrection. I will put the link of the video in the chat and in the description. Let's open the microphones and share what comes into our mind.
Well, brilliant as usual. And I'm hoping I can articulate what was coming through to me as I was listening. And it's funny because I have a friend in Switzerland, and she was sharing with me that she's concerned about what she says and her, converting from German to English and what have you. And I told her that my own New York accent, sometimes what I've done is I've asked, Holy Spirit is my Dale Carnegie. I mean, I just trust what comes out and just let it flow with that. But what I was seeing, what Master Teacher was saying, to have perception, there has to be an observer. And there has to be someone to observe what's perceived. So in that recognition with Mel Gibson and the idea of this movie and everything being on a movie screen, these images that are on the screen, if they move from that screen, since they're images in my mind that have been projected, I can pass through those images. And the only thing that really remains is the light beyond those concepts. That's all one. That's all one. And if we take any image and break it down to its simplest form, it's all energy. So therefore, God is the substance of all form. And that's the truth of our being. So if we move daily into this dying to the personal sense of self and recognize that the shining radiance that we are is all that is, then that's really the holy instant that we started out with, where we're recognizing ourself, and then the projection will be that light and not the misperception of the false images that are just aspects of, as Master Teacher puts it, the dark energy. So that was what I got from it today. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Yeah, it is quite interesting how also that movie was perceived at that time, because even within the Christian community, it was rather seen as too violent, because what you're talking about, if that training of the mind to really look through it and apply true forgiveness, of course, it will demonstrate that the world, as it is stated in the introduction too, is an attack on God. No? And an attack on God is always an attack on my true self. No? So it needs to be clearly understood that only a new way of perceiving, of thinking, can, in that sense, bring also a new perspective that comes from resurrected mind. No? Or the master teacher would express it as even the demonstration of this perfect single body identity, but here identity would be capitalized, no? Because the perfection is in there, and the body is basically doesn't have this meaning from the past anymore that can be crucified and is subject of crucifixion, but becomes the true demonstration of resurrected mind. No? And that's why a demonstration of the crucifixion, as it was also done by Mel Gibson, and that was definitely a good demonstration how the separated ego mind is really experiencing itself in the world and as part of the world. No? So, but how much it is needed to bring to a resurrecting, awakening experience. Now, there's no resurrection in heaven. There's no resurrection in whole mind, in God mind. So it will always be just for here in my own mind, in the transition from perception to knowledge. Né? And there it is very important to look really squarely first of, okay, what was my invention? What was the meaning I've given to myself and so to the world? Né? Because then I do have a determination and motivation for a change of mind.
You know, I was just thinking that dear one used to always say, you keep putting Jesus on the cross. And it's just like, we keep holding on to that image of Jesus. You go into a church and you see him on the cross, rather than returning to really putting the focus on the resurrection, which in A Course in Miracles, it says the meaning of the crucifixion was really the resurrection. It was all about the resurrection. And dear one said in the beginning of this video, he was talking about, it was focused on lessons in the 60s and 70s. And they are the beginning, like in the 60s, well, you start with I am the light of the world, but then forgiveness is my function, and then it goes through grievances. My grievances hide the light of the world in me. It's all about forgiveness. Those are the beginning forgiveness lessons, holding on to grievances, causing the light not to be available to me. It goes into the 70s where it's I think in the 70s it starts let miracles replace all grievances, and more of a replacement of the grievances and the pain. So it is from kind of like a succession from crucifixion ideas into light ideas, and finally let me recognize I have only one problem and one solution. My problem is my separation from God. My solution is the recognition that it's impossible for me to be separate, that I am fully in that light, as that light, part of that light, and that everything has already been solved. And he was talking about that everything, in the beginning, he was talking about that the body is a dense thought form. Everything is thought. And so as we move from dark thoughts or heavy thoughts to light thoughts, we don't have to do anything. The body will go through a transformation. The whole association, everything that we see and experience will go through a transformation. And it has only to do with my thought. Everything. So either I'm letting go of old thought, or I'm just moving into the light thought that has always been part of me and part of my memory. So this sequence, this video was kind of a sequence. Yeah, it was a perception change from the 60s into the 70s, as he was talking about a resurrection, from crucifixion to resurrection, taking Jesus off the cross. So and I used to think about that, it's like, it is, people are focused on him being on the cross and saying, oh, what is it? Mea culpa, I'm so guilty. I'm so guilty. Look what I've done. He's on the cross. He's still on the cross. Yeah. So release of all of that.
I think it comes down to trust, and where Jesus talks about faithfulness in the Course, it's really trusting in that true identity of the Christ that we are, and allowing the Holy Spirit to reinterpret that for us. And that's why it's so important that we step back, let him lead the way, and then that imprisoned splendor is what comes forth and recognizes the resurrection instead of the crucifixion. That's what we see, because that's what I am. Thanks.
Yeah, trust is so huge. I mean, it's one of the first characteristic of a teacher of God.
And it is also the complete emphasis in the entire series, in this Cellular Mind Training series, what you were already talking about, Karen, the lessons of the 60s and 70s. And as you can see on the link, it's CMT-06A. It's the 6th episode. And there was it was after he was teaching already extensively the 60s and 70s. And then this was the transitional video, and he added on then the 90s, from 91 to 94. And we could also say, okay, as he really touches here that necessity that forgiveness is actually the means in order to come to the resurrection. But we are opening, of course, our miracles are seen in light. And so it has to come to a completely new perspective and perception. Otherwise, it just stays in the concept of resurrection. And resurrection is nothing else than the demonstration that it's not the concepts, it's not the death, but it is really that what we cannot even talk about. So it is a wonderful episode that kind of brings it all together. Scrambles it, as a string, as the string theory, and a lot of it is really at the cause, or what is the substance of all, and how far did science come along, and it's still going on to discover things, because it's not really part of the conceptual mind.
Yeah, I love something you said there. And I think it's so important to recognition that it's not about knowledge. It's not about words. It's not about the thoughts. It's about the experience beyond these concepts, beyond these words and thoughts. It's the experience of oneness, which is the holiness. And it's very difficult to bring that back into what that means, because it's an experience. And that's what we want to do here, is experience the resurrection. And as MT was saying about the light is from out of time. So the recognition that still mind, the importance of the meditation and stilling, and to enable us to be receptive and listen to those capital T thoughts from out of time, for lack of a better word. It's an experience that comes through, inspiration, illumination, that kind of thing. But thanks, Devavan. I like that it's an experience beyond what we think.
Thank you. Yeah, and also the title "Jesus is back with us right here and now," no? And then make that move into the necessity of the forgiveness lessons, let's say, or being, or maybe just generalized, to see, as long as I perceive something, I have to be determined, I want to be determined to change my mind about how to see it. No? So it really, without that activity of changing my mind, training my mind, being active in that, how would I even realize that Jesus is back with me right here and now? No? That is all a result of that activity. Well, thank you, my dear ones. I think we leave it for today like this, and I still a song to offer. Any last ideas or greetings?
Yeah, thank you.
I'm sorry I have to cut out a little early right now today, so I'm gonna miss the song, but love you guys. I'll see you next week. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Karen.
Karen.
Thank you. Yeah, I think, as you said, Devavan, it's dedication, vigilance, and really being willing to look at it differently. And each day is devoted to miracles. And that's all for me. Every day devoted to miracles. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Well, we have as a last song also for the brothers who are still with the Polish festival, a Polish song. And thank you for joining. I love you.